a woman who prioritizes her professional ambitions above all else will be very unappealing to the vast majority of men. And I know that might be upsetting for you to hear, but it's just true.
I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take Two. Oh boy, do we have some fun things to talk about today as we dive into this hot mess of a dumpster fire that is a feud between Megyn Kelly and Matt Walsh, and specifically men like Matt Walsh being emboldened by the current climate with the Trump administration in power into feeling like it's now okay to say the quiet part out loud. And I feel like it's still not. Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I am ex-Mormon, ex-Tradwife, Jenny Gage, and I want to give just a little disclaimer at the top of this episode for my grandmas who don't like me to cuss, that there is absolutely no possible way that I can discuss the topics that we're discussing today without using just a few cuss words, possibly rat's ass, maybe a couple of F-bombs, and I'm definitely gonna use hell and damn. I'm sorry. I know some of you don't like that, but I just know it's going to come up today. So first, let me introduce you to our boy, Matt Walsh. Matt is an ultra right-wing conservative political commentator, podcaster, journalist. He works over at the Daily Wire and produced a couple documentaries, one of which was called What is a Woman? Another one called Am I Racist? He's just a lot of fun at parties. He hates gay people. I don't know how else to put that. Like my script, that's all it says. He hates gay people. He doesn't believe that they exist, kind of like the Tooth Fairy. Anyway, Matt Walsh and Megyn Kelly have recently gotten into this very public feud, in part because Megyn Kelly decided to call Matt out on some of his misogynistic, outdated public statements about women and gender roles. Here's a little bit about what she said.
Having said that, I like the guy. I'm getting a little tired of his nonstop judgment of women who make different choices than the ones he wants us to make. Sorry, Matt, you're not our Jesus. We don't answer to you. We're not judging moms who choose to stay at home and raise their kids.
Absolutely
That's a choice we celebrate. We love. Those are our sisters and our friends and our moms. Women aren't doing this to other women for the most part. It's guys like Matt. Like, shut up.
Now, guys like Matt Walsh don't like to be questioned about their misogynistic, sexist, outdated gender viewpoints. They don't tolerate it well even from other men, but they especially don't like when women say anything about their backwards viewpoints. Basically, just because Megyn Kelly had any opinion on this topic whatsoever, Matt Walsh is now over at the Daily Wire doubling down on everything. All over his Facebook, his Instagram, anywhere that he can spill his thoughts, he is spilling his thoughts. Every day he's posting more and more and more commentary about what he thinks the role of women is. Let me play for you just a little bit more of the video that I put up at the top, and then we're gonna talk.
Men and women are different. They are looking for different things, Megyn. A man might be attracted to a woman with a career, but he's not going to be attracted to her because of her career. And a woman who puts her career before anything, a woman who prioritizes her professional ambitions above all else, will be very unappealing to the vast majority of men. And I know that might be upsetting for you to hear, Megyn, but it's just true.
Now I'd like to read for you this whole big thing that Matt put out there. Over the past few years, I've spent a lot of time talking about marriage from a perspective of a man. A perspective that isn't discussed often enough and is even less understood. If I can just interject right here, I think that men have been discussing marriage and families and relationships from their perspective for pretty much as long as human civilization has existed. This is not an underrepresented viewpoint. Not by any means. Most of the Hollywood producers, many of our authors, many of the people talking about everything, the whole entire world is run by men. So we've heard your viewpoint. We don't need to give the patriarchy a bigger microphone so that we can hear what men are thinking. We get it. I thought we'd cover the ground we needed to, but then Megyn Kelly weighed in with a critique. She was reacting to that viral video we've already talked about, the one where a feminist influencer nearly divorced her husband for not doing household chores exactly how and when she wanted. I'm sure that there's a lot more behind that than just he didn't do the chores. He didn't do the chores, and he was a douchebag, and he didn't add any value to her life. So there's always more to it. The men like to think that we're really simple like that. We're not. You're not adding value to our lives. We don't love you. Megan seemed to agree that publicly attacking your husband is a bad look, but then she pivoted. Her real problem, she said, is with how men on the right talk about marriage, especially me. She says young men don't want career women and that it's a big problem. She thinks they've been duped by anti-feminist propaganda. They should be attracted to working women, but they aren't. While I normally try to avoid public spats with people on our own side, I think she deserves a response, not because of some personal beef, but because it reveals something deeper. The conversation here is much bigger than Megan or me. It's about the fundamental divide on the right between two competing worldviews, traditionalism and feminism. We are at a crossroads. We cannot conserve both. We have to decide what we actually want to preserve. The traditional view of the sexes, which has guided human civilization for thousands of years, or the feminist ideology that emerged a few decades ago and has left a trail of social wreckage in its wake. I know which side I'm on. This all ties back to the basic reality that men and women want different things. It's simply a fact that most men are not attracted to ambitious, career-driven women. That doesn't mean they'll never marry one, and I'm not saying wives should never work. Plenty of families need two incomes. My own wife is currently organizing a fundraiser for a Catholic homeschool hybrid. Oh my God. So much to say on that. I'll do a second video. She enjoys it, she's good at it, and she can do it from home. But this isn't about logistics, it's about ideals. What men want, what they're drawn to, hasn't changed. They want a woman who's kind, feminine, nurturing, someone who wants to build a home and raise children. That's the ideal. That's what men have always wanted, and that isn't a problem. It's not regressive, it's not controversial, it's just human nature. Here come the cuss words. Dear Matt Walsh, and every man out there who listens to him or thinks like him, we women could not give one rat's ass less than we already do. What the fuck men think or want or desire or find attractive, we aren't living for you. And your verbiage is off and your history is incorrect, sir. You see, you may have this viewpoint of the 1940s, 1950s American industrialized, urbanized nuclear family being traditional, but it is in fact the newest family model in the history of the earth. I have friends right now who are in these polyamorous relationships and they talk about how trendy and new it is. That's as old as humankind. By some statistics, 50% of Earth's population is currently polygamous, polyamorous. Humans behind the scenes have always been swinging and dating other people. But being in a little home with just husband and wife, without the tribal system of grandparents, aunts, uncles, and tribal importance of both the female and the male in the relationships, is brand spanking new. But it sure is not traditional by any means. I would like to recommend a book to everybody. This is called The American Woman, Who Was She? And this book is published in 1971. I do think that you can still get it online. This is a fascinating read. It has some original documentation that was never shared anywhere else prior to this book. She starts off way back in 1971 with a really great quote. Even when men have thought about women, they have been inclined to believe that they must think for them as well. And that is absolutely not okay. It is never okay for a man, whether that is a political commentator or a pastor or a prophet or a pope or a so-called sacred writing mythology, whether that's the Quran or the Bible or the Book of Mormon or what, to tell women what men want them to be. That is our private territory alone. So let's talk about just the American traditional family, because Matt, you used some really strong words there about like for all of time. This is what everybody has always done. In the early United States, the colonial period, American women had a hard life, but considerable opportunity and equal opportunity in many ways to men. Women's work was important, as the Virginia Assembly recognized almost as soon as the first settlement began, when it agreed to give grants of land to women as well as men. Now, I want to just share a little bit of my personal history with you because it's important, it's traditional, it's historic. One of my earliest ancestors in the United States, whose family had immigrated from France, her name was Chloe Howard, and she's who my 21-year-old Chloe that just moved out of the house, that's who she's named after. I took her name off of the pedigree charts. She was a single woman for many years. She bought her own giant swath of land. She didn't even know how to read or write. Her name is signed as an X, but we actually have her original land deed in our family history. As the colonial society took shape in the 17th and early 18th centuries, women could be found doing all kinds of things, speaking for themselves in courts of law, running print shops and newspapers, inns and schools, practicing medicine, and supervising plantations. In addition, of course, nearly all women made clothes, grew, preserved, and prepared food, cared for livestock, taught children. After the revolution, this pattern continued on farms and in rural communities, but in the growing towns, wives of prosperous merchants could afford to imitate English standards and live as they taught ladies lived. This was a new invention. In the more organized society of the early 19th century, law, medicine, and teaching became professions carried on solely by men. Again, new invention. This was an interruption of everything that they had been doing and was non-traditional. 19th century Americans exhibited a good deal of anxiety about the question of women's sphere, which is what we're discussing here with Matt and Megan. What were the things appropriate for women to do? The most conservative view was that God had created women to take care of men and children, and that whenever they took part in public activities, they were being very unladylike. Women were seen as gentle, pious, sentimental, emotional, and not very bright. Fast forward to the Civil War and the whole abolitionist era. Women in the South wrote and publicly spoke extensively about how their situation was no different legally than the slaves that they were working to free. So just to clarify, America started off with very non-gendered roles. People just had to do what people had to do. And what did women want to do? Women wanted to do whatever women wanted to do, and that was different woman by woman. And then we start to see a society based on status. Why do men like Matt Walsh want women to stay in their little pink roles, to stay at home, to be wives, mothers, and helpmates? Status? It's a real mark of manhood if you have the money to keep a woman at home and support that family. This is one of the greatest status symbols in America today, especially with our current economy. Number two, having a traditional family, being a traditional man, a traditional woman, is the ultimate dog whistle. It is the ultimate virtue signal. And I know this firsthand because I was that rich Mormon stay-at-home mommy. And that was a way for me to show my piousness. Like, look at me. I'm not polluting my hands with making money. I'm just staying home, which is what Heavenly Father wants me to do. You see, I believed that God literally made Adam and Eve, man and woman, and that from the very get-go, Eve was the stay-at-home mom. Her whole entire job was just to take care of the little babies. And I don't know what they had, some type of a stone hut, and that Adam's job was to go out and hunt. Eve gathered and babied, and Adam hunted and provided. For 44 years of my life, I believed all of the sexist, misogynistic, patriarchal, women-hating parts of the Bible as truth and reality, and exactly what Heavenly Father wanted all of us to be doing. Embracing that traditional family to me meant that I was better than everybody else. And it feels good to be better, doesn't it? Number three, men just don't want to do stuff. They just don't. And in a way, that's our fault as mothers. I've raised my sons to be very different than the traditional man. My sons are complete whole human beings who know how to cook their own food and do their own laundry and also be kind and loving and emotionally mature. And so they can go out into the world and be married or not be married, be single, whatever, and they're going to survive and thrive. Men who are raised to be half a human, where all they focus on is their football team and their grades and going to the gym with their friends, and they're never taught to homemake. They are never taught to parent. They grow up to be adults who don't know how to parent and don't know how to cook their own food. And these men want what Matt Walsh just said, the quiet part out loud. They want a beautiful, sexy, attractive, hardworking woman who's going to stay at home and run charity organizations and take care of the babies so that they can walk in the door at the end of a long day with the smell of sourdough bread and stroganoff wafting through the front door and their slippers waiting by the couch. Who wouldn't want that? I want that. If I could become a lesbian by choice today and have a housewife, oh my God, that would be absolutely amazing. That is my fantasy. Isn't that everybody's fantasy, to have a free little servant who does everything and all you have to do is provide room and board and like give them the credit card so that they can go to Pilates and have their nails done? Side note here, I actually started a TikTok series asking men if they would be stay-at-home moms, and 100% of the men said yes, including Kevin. And when I asked them about the financial risks and stuff, they were all like, oh, I don't care. That means early retirement. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is like take care of the kids and like cook dinner. Yes, sign me up. Because at the end of the day, all of us are fantasizing about a way to step out of the whole entire rat race that everybody's running. And as a woman, if I can just get married and have babies and take care of the house, then that seems equally as appealing to me as it does to these men who promote this. But it's an extremely dangerous, high-risk lifestyle without the legal protections that would make it a safe risk. And once again, it is absolutely not traditional. This is not what people used to do. It is an utterly new invention, and it is deeply problematic. And the American nuclear family has now caused widespread tribal decay. This nuclear family, industrialization, urbanization model has meant that the little nuclear pods are relocating across the country. They're leaving grandparents. They're leaving their community. They're detaching in the name of capitalism. We have indeed lost the real traditional structure of family systems that have supported and served humans for as long as humans have existed on this planet. I'd like to conclude with just a little bit of my story. Again, I was born and raised in the Mormon church, so very, very, very traditional, even like 100 years behind everybody else. So I grew up and became a little tradwifey, very feminine, all the dresses and high heels and the long extensions and eyelashes and cooking and cleaning and taking care of the babies while my husband was out providing for the family. That was my life. And I believed that Heavenly Father had made me to have these certain capacities, like nurturing, like baking, that my husband just simply didn't have. Well, then I left the Mormon church 6 years ago and have stepped into a completely different life and just leaned into wherever my heart and my passion and my strengths lead me. And I do not lean into women's roles, nor am I particularly skilled at them. It turns out my beautiful partner, Kevin, is a much better nurturer. He's a better diplomat. He's a dean of students, so he deals with like preschool through 8th graders 5 days a week. And in many ways in my home, he's the mom and I'm the dad. And we joke about that. And my kids actually call me dad a lot, kind of tongue in cheek, but it's truly where my skills lie. I'm good at the budgeting. I'm good at the organizing. I'm a really good manager. And I'm not necessarily like as emotionally connective as women typically are supposed to be. Kevin is just a honey. Like, he's just a sweetheart, and he gets into the kitchen and like bakes the most amazing desserts, and that guy can make a pancake like nobody's business. And this experience of having those two different lives, like growing up indoctrinated in that traditional family, traditional roles, and then leaving that behind and having a completely fresh start, I have a unique experience that many people don't have, where I can do the compare and contrast. And my conclusion at the end of my life being an experiment is gender roles are a bunch of bullshit. They don't exist. There are female spheres that I'm really comfortable in, and there are some that I am absolutely not comfortable in. I'm an Arizona girly, so I'm surrounded by reservations and an indigenous population, hashtag land back now, please, let's do it. I would love a Navajo, like, priestess, medicine woman, president. That would be amazing. Anyway, so I have some Navajo friends, and these Navajo women, they are fierce, outspoken leaders in ways that we Mormon girls were not allowed to be. And they have been like that for thousands of years. So Matt Walsh, pull your head out of the sand and out of whatever dark cavity you've had it in and get with it. And we don't actually care if you do or don't, because you have no impact on us. But we're going to be over here doing exactly what we women want to do, which is not caring what men like you say. Thanks for watching. I'll be hanging out in the comments to see what you guys' thoughts are.